You know that moment when you're playing Resident Evil, having the time of your life, and then suddenly the game decides how much psychological torture you can take until you throw your controller across the room? Yeah, well, we've all been there before, and today we're going to be looking into the worst areas in every Resident Evil game. The kind of parts of games that made us question if we were even enjoying ourselves. First, we're going to start off with Resident Evil 4, a game that's practically perfect in every way, until it isn't. First up, we have the island section. I'm pretty sure nobody liked this. Some of you might refer to it as a Michael Bay fever dream. Remember when this was a horror game? Yeah, the island forgot too. While you're here, you're busy dodging snipers, but then it wants to nosedive back into horror, throwing you completely off and just having the regenerators wailing on you. But the real star of the show here is the water halls. You know that lovely section where you're trying to protect Ashley, who apparently just forgot how to think? It's hard enough that you're already trying to solve puzzles while this room is slowly filling with water, you're getting attacked by people, but you have an AI partner who doesn't know what's going on at all. And just when you think you've suffered enough, the game hits you with the sewer bridge scene. It's like the developer said, hey, you know what would be fun? Let's make the player protect an AI companion with the survival instincts of a curious toddler. Spoiler alert, this doesn't make it funny. This makes it way less fun. Oh, and let's not forget the hex puzzle, which feels less like a puzzle and more like a test on how much you can backtrack through this game. I've seen maze-solving rats with better navigation skills than me trying to backtrack through this game. But hey, at least Resident Evil 4's rough spots are brief. Because next, we're diving into Resident Evil Village, where someone decided the best way to follow up Lady D's castle was with this rusty, gross factory. I'm gonna be honest, I'd rather go into the DMV than go back through this section of the game. It was just so boring. Ah, the Heisenberg factory. The section that somehow manages to make a steampunk zombie-infested factory boring. I didn't think it was possible either, but here we are. After the gothic elegance of the Lady D castle, I'm not gonna say her name because I don't know how to say it, and the psychological horror of the House of Benevina, y'all know, the weird baby thing, yeah. The game decides to throw us into what feels like the most aggressive factory tour ever. The factory suffers from what I like to call bullet sponge syndrome. You know, where every enemy just takes a million shots to even get down once, and then they end up probably mutating. You're starting to think if the Duke sold you real bullets or Nerf darts. The soldiers in this factory are so resilient, I'm starting to think they're made out of whatever these Nokias were made out of in 2000. But the real crime here isn't the bullet sponge enemies, it's the mind-numbing layout. The architect of this building clearly was a toddler hyped up on pixie sticks, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. You have identical corridors, repetitive rooms, and an aesthetic that screams industrial depression. And then the Benevito house, or whatever you say, big baby house, okay? I know I was just talking this up, but it also has its flaws. I'm saying that before you guys start angrily typing in my comment section, you're stupid, you don't know what you're talking about. I know, I'm just yapping. So yes, while I agree that this section is beautifully designed, the baby monster is incredible, it has its flaws. Picture this, you've spent hours carefully cultivating your arsenal, you got weapons, ammo, you're starting to feel like a doomsday prepper. And then suddenly the game goes, nah, this is a psychological horror game. Say goodbye to your guns. It turns into one of those psychological horror walking simulators. It's like showing up to a gunfight with a Spotify playlist. The puzzles in this section are unique, and by unique I mean it looks like they were designed by someone who watched too many escape rooms. You're literally playing with dolls in a horror game. I hate dolls. That's besides the point though. I haven't felt this confused about gaming choices since that one time I played Minecraft with my voice. And then there's that sequence. The one that made thousands of players realize, maybe I don't like Resident Evil that much. And yes, of course, I can only be talking about the baby monster. This looks like some weird baby that had an exorcist go wrong. I didn't like this. So what's not bad about this is the monsters. The monsters are cool. It's a cool little section. It's different. The thing that sucks though is that you spend so much time building all this from the Lady D castle, and then you jump into this. It feels like a waste of time. But if you thought Resident Evil Village's tonal whiplash was bad, just wait until we talk about Resident Evil 7's ship section. After spending hours in the most terrifying Airbnb, the game suddenly decides to trap you on the SS I'd rather be doing anything else. The ship's design is special. It's very special. Imagine someone made a maze and made every path look identical. Very similar to something we've already talked about. And also there's more of those mold monsters. I've spent less time looking at a map in real life than I've spent trying to figure out how to get around the ship. It's one of those places where you're like, oh, I've definitely been here before, but it turns out you actually haven't, and it's actually a new path that you were on, and you turned around right before you got to the right spot, and then you kept going into more of a circle. It's annoying. And let's discuss our friends, the Molded. By this point in the game, these guys have gone from terrifying bioweapon to another giant bullet sponge that's just in the way. They're about as scary as a wet paper towel. Then we have Lucas's torture chambers, which feels like if Jigsaw got really into Twitter and then became an influencer. The puzzles here aren't just difficult. These kind of puzzles make you realize you're suffering more than you're enjoying this game. One of the sections with Lucas that I'm not a fan of is the blacklight section. Nothing screams horror quite like a deadly version of Blue's Clues. At this point, the game has forgotten that it's supposed to be scary and just wants to be the most lethal escape room ever. The trial and error of these traps isn't just annoying, it feels like you're just a lab rat. How many times can someone die in a game before Googling how to delete a game from your Steam library? Completely. Turns out the answer's higher than you think. But if you thought surviving a maze like shit and a dollar store Jigsaw, wait until you see what happens when we walk into the Resident Evil 2 sewer system. Because nothing screams survival horror like waddling through waist-deep water. Oh, while being chased by this thing. Yeah, did I forget to mention that? Resident Evil 2's Underground Nightmare. Because apparently the beautifully designed Raccoon Police Department had to be thrown away so we could go into this stupid, yet again, maze. It feels like I'm at like a rundown Splash Mountain here. Let's talk about the G-adults. These lovely creatures look like if you put ground beef out for a week straight. Not good is the answer. Again, like most other things, they're bullet sponges. You end up taking so many shots at them that you're wondering if you're even hitting them anymore. The Raccoon Police Department might have been a maze, but at least it was visually cool. Here, imagine if you were actually here as Leon. You go from the police department, probably doesn't smell great, but now you're in a literal sewer system. Everything looks the same, and there's a lot of brown, and you don't know what it is. It's not good. And I'm gonna be completely honest, the lab section, this is probably one of my least favorite parts of any Resident Evil game. I just find it so boring. Oh my gosh, I don't even want to talk about it. It suffers from final act fatigue. You know when a game's like, yeah, you should probably speed this up and get it over with? Yeah, that. It still needs to get everything off its checklist though. Electronic door locks? Check. Mysterious experiment? Check. The overwhelming feeling that someone's following you? Check. By this point, the game has thrown away all of its carefully crafted tension to instead nosedive into a 90s sci-fi lab movie where a monster breakout is about to happen, which, I mean, is fun, but that's not what we're here for. But if you thought the Resident Evil 2 lab was bad, hold on to your stars gear, because we're diving into Resident Evil 6. You know, the game that looked at the series' horror roots and said, what if we just make it Call of Duty? They literally turned this game into Fast and Furious for shooters. Welcome to Resident Evil 6, the game that looked at the careful balance of horror and shooter game from Resident Evil 4 and tipped all of that balance off a cliff. This isn't a slight departure from survival horror. This is a dead sprint away from it. While they were running, they were probably firing double pistols and probably doing a backflip. Let's look into Jake's campaign, which I'm convinced was written by an energy drink company. This guy from Red Bull probably wrote it. First off, we have Jack Moeller, son of Albert Wesker, the horror farmer himself. Or we have the infamous snowmobile sequence, which deserves its own special mention. Picture this, you're playing this survival horror game, and then suddenly you're in Die Hard. It makes Fast and Furious feel like a documentary. You're not just driving a snowmobile, you're in the Olympics for it, while being chased by a bioweapon. This game follows the, but wait, there's more structure. You think you're done after fighting that giant mutant? Wrong. Here's a helicopter chase. Oh, you survived that? Cool, now fight on top of this train. Oh, you beat that? Okay, now you're underwater, while on fire. Don't ask me, I didn't make it. The game throws so many sets at you like it's Michael Bay. So what I guess I'm trying to say is for Resident Evil 6, the worst area in this game isn't one area, it's that it can't stick to one. You know how ammo management is really hard in all the Resident Evil games? Resident Evil 6 makes it look like you could fuel a small army with all of the bullets it gives you. Literally in any area in the game, they're just gonna be just everywhere. You'd think any kid on the block just had a box of bullets fall out of his pockets. But as outrageous that Resident Evil 6 is, let's take it back to where the series began. Resident Evil 1 and its underwater mistakes. Remember when you were going around the masterfully designed Spencer Mansion, feeling the tension build with every carefully placed zombie and Crimson Head? You were running into some really cool characters and monsters in this game. Well, forget that because we're going swimming. Let's talk about the lab design. While I can say that it was probably designed by no one that's actually seen a lab before, or water, possibly either, the layout makes the Winchester house look sensible. You've got underwater sections connected to dry sections connected to more underwater sections. It's like they designed it while they were on something at SeaWorld. The swimming controls deserve special attention, and by special, I mean the kind of special that makes you question everything else about this game. Your character navigates through this section like a penguin that's drunk with concrete shoes on. Hand controls ruin so many cool areas because you just don't know how to move becomes a special kind of torture. Left is right, right is up, down is... I don't know. And your sanity? It's somewhere in between there. And let's discuss our underwater friend. Remember Neptune? Of course you do. It's like if Jaws was replaced by a Dollar Tree shark toy and just enlarged to make it look like a real shark. The shark's AI has two settings. I'm gonna eat you, and I'm gonna swim into this wall repeatedly. The real crime isn't the clunky mechanics, it's how it completely takes away from everything we've been building onto for this game. We've gone through this cool aesthetic with this mansion, and now we're just in an underwater lab. Why does it always come to an underwater lab? Let's talk about pacing, because that's one thing that this section doesn't understand. The mansion built pacing through carefully placed zombie attacks, random scary encounters. The lab builds tension by making you watch a slowly moving swimming animation, but you occasionally get to press a button. That's cool. It's less survival horror and more survival boredom. And I know what you're thinking, oh, but it's so old, gotta give it a break. Even back then they had standards, come on. But you thought swimming through an underwater lab was tedious. Just wait until we talk about Code Veronica's Antarctica base. Because nothing screams fun like limited save ribbons and an impossible boss. It's like they took everything frustrating about regular Resident Evil and made it worse. Welcome to Code Veronica Antarctic Base, where the true horror isn't the monsters, it's the game design. Nothing screams we love our players more than dropping them into a frozen wasteland and limited resources. I'm just kidding, that screams we hate them. Let's start with the base layout. Corridors loop around like a drunk snake playing Twister. And every room looks identical because in Antarctica they can't design more than one room. Getting lost isn't just possible, it's basically mandatory. But the real star of this fight is the plane fight with Tyrant. Imagine, if you will, a boss fight so poorly balanced that it becomes legendary in the Resident Evil community. You're trapped in a cargo hold, smaller than my house's bathroom, fighting a creature that can kill you in 2 hits with whatever resources you happen to bring with you from 3 hours ago. Speaking of resources, let's talk about the save system. And maybe I'm just a wuss, but I never liked the ink ribbon system. I just die a lot. And I'm too cautious. I'll save, and then I'll save 5 minutes later because I'm like, what if Mr. X comes out of nowhere and just wants to punch me in the face? I have trust issues. Code Veronica took this already tense save system and made it worse. The save points are spread out like they're social distancing, and are rarer than a well-designed section in this game. And then there's the Bandersnatchers, possibly the worst name but most annoying enemy in Resident Evil. These one-arm wonders are stretching their arms like they're auditioning for Fantastic Four. Trying to dodge these things in narrow corridors is like trying to play Dance Dance Revolution in a phone booth. The difficulty curve of this section isn't a curve at all. It's a straight line, right up, with spikes on it. Let's talk about something I've already said I love. Backtracking, woo, yay. You'll revisit the same corridor multiple times. You'll start having dreams about them. And each time you return, there's a new way to die. It's like a deadly version of Groundhog Day, but with worse weather. This story during this section is something else. Between Alfred's character arc reaching new levels of bizarre and the constant family drama, it's like watching a soap opera where everyone's trying to kill each other, which, come to think of it, is pretty much a soap operas nowadays. But the true masterpiece of frustration is how all these things are combined with one another. Limited saves, check. Difficult bosses, check. Confusing layout, check. Code Veronica, while it's a great game, just found a way to put in some very annoying aspects to it. Looking back at all these notorious sections, from Resident Evil 6's action movie fantasies to Code Veronica's frozen nightmare, it's amazing how each game found new and innovative ways to frustrate their players. But hey, maybe that's what makes these moments so memorable. They're all parts we love to hate. They give us this shared trauma that all Resident Evil fans get to have. And hey, at least they gave us something on Reddit to complain about for the next 20 years. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and if you didn't enjoy, I'm sorry. I'll try to do better next time. If you did enjoy this though, make sure to click the video on the screen right now.